So I'll just jump right into it. If you're taking out federal loans within 6 months of graduating, you will have to start paying back those loans. The 6-month grace period. If you have unsubsidized loans, that means the interest has been accruing the entire time since you first signed that loan agreement. Subsidized loans, the government has been paying that interest on those loans up until that 6-month period. Some advice I always try to give people right away is do not dodge the calls from the loan companies. It is the worst thing you can do. I've had friends tell me like, oh, just never mind, they swipe away. I'm like, They know what I do for a living, so it just like murders me every time. So something else you want to note is that there are things called income-based repayment plans. It's a pay-as-you-earn sort of thing. So if you start out and you're only working at $30,000 or $40,000 in your job, but your loans are just too much comparatively, you can either go online and send them your taxes from the year before, and they'll work out a payment plan for you, or you can call them and kind of discuss your options. But like I said, the worst thing you can do is avoid the phone calls or the emails. And no, changing your phone number will not fix this, it will find you. So, just FYI. If you go back into grad school or start taking classes, you could have options of deferment. Forbearance is something else a little bit entirely, and that's when you have to give up, not really quite give up, but you have to stop paying loans for some reason, but it's much better to go into deferment and start taking classes. You don't ever want to go into default. That's when you stop paying your loans, and this often happens when people try to avoid paying them by just doing the blinders thing and just pretending like they don't have student loans. This is really not a good idea. This can really hurt your credit, which we'll talk more about in regards to housing and applying for apartments. But it also goes for applying for grad school loans. Credit's really important for also buying a car. And some apartment buildings will, if you don't have any credit, so apartment buildings will not even look at your application because that can be a bad sign. I'm going to put a little pitch out there for the Gloucester Credit Builder. Who heard of the Gloucester Credit Builder, anyone? Great. So for $30, they'll take out a loan of $1,000 in your name, and no money is actually exchanged. But what it is they pay it back, and you end up just getting credit for $30, which was the interest of the loan period. And it's a really good idea if you haven't really had any loans that are currently in your name. Maybe your parents took out a parent plus loan or something, and you want to just get some credit on the table. For $30, buying perfect credit is not a bad idea. So I recommend doing that just to get a start and to get some numbers on that credit score. You should never have to pay for student loan advice. If you ever get an email or see a tweet about we'll help you with your student loans for a low fee of, if it's not zero, then it's not. It's a scam. There are options to consolidate your loans, but I would actually talk to your loan providers or your financial aid counselor and see what the best option is for you. It's not one size fits all sort of thing. Moving a bit into the credit thing, credit cards. You probably have gotten a few credit card offers during your time here at Georgetown. A lot of credit card companies are a little predatory on students because they know that students don't quite know how to budget yet and they might just overspend. Something important to note with credit cards is that you always want to pay the full balance each month. Really important. Those credit card fees, especially for people that are young, are super high. And it looks really tempting when they tell you the minimum is $25 and you have $100 on there. You're like, great, that's $75 free dollars. It's not. It really isn't. If you pay full each month, you never have to worry also about it stacking up and you not having to pay at some point. And again, the credit card can really affect your credit score. And again, that all ties back into getting a good apartment, getting a loan you might need for grad school, and so on. Another thing with credit cards is that if you're applying for one, you can call and talk to the company if there are any issues. You can maybe argue for a lower rate. You are the customer, and you can argue for yourself. For example, when I was applying for a credit card, I got an actual physical paper mail that said, you've been denied because you did not send us proof of residence. And I called them and said, I know I sent you my lease. I made a copy of it. They're like, oh, in the system it says, you have a lease, we just didn't check the box saying you sent it to us. I'm like, so you have my document. You didn't check the box saying you have my document. Yes, we'll be sending your card by 6 business days. I'm like, thank you. So you really need to call and check about these things. Errors happen all the time. I'll get into an error involving insurance in a little bit. But before I go any further with this loans and credit and so on, are there any questions, or you can save until the end?
With the Guascu credit building thing that you were talking about, do you have to have an account with Guascu to be able to do that?
That I'm not sure. I had an account, so that's how I knew of it, but you can ask them. That's a good question. I don't know. I think the next time I present this, I'll ask them that question. Yes?
For credit card, I heard about the grace period. I don't know what that is. Are you going to cover about the grace period? Like, you have to like pay like in specific days so that they won't like put interest in your balance.
I was checking their individual credit cards. So like if I bought a sandwich today for $6, it's not like tomorrow it's due. There's certain, it's due at times of the month. Yeah, you have to check your individual credit card on that. But like I said, it's not like it's due the next day or something. Yes?
So say you have like a $500 like credit limit on a credit card, and say you hit that before the end of the month, and you want to keep building credit, would it be best to like wait to pay it that month, or like pay it before that's due so you can keep using it?
If you hit your limit, that's not quite a good sign because it looks at the credit score company that you're hitting your limits. It looks like you're just spending too much and you're overdoing yourself, even if you have all the money in your bank account. I recommend not going over 50 to 60% of your credit available, even though it looks like you have that $300 left over. I wouldn't go over it. And just pay off in full each month like that. And some people have, for this reason, 2 credit cards or such, just so they don't overhit their limits. Personally, I only have 1. And when I started to reach kind of a limit, maybe I went on vacation or was my sister's wedding, I had a lot of stuff to buy, I just kind of use my debit card for a little bit and then go back to it. I noticed on my credit score, for example, times like that, they were kind of like, we noticed you spent a little more than average, which kind of looks sketchy on your credit report. So I use Credit Karma for this. It's a free website. It is legit. People think because the name is kind of not, but it is. There's also a free credit report, but Credit Karma has just always worked for me. They also show you the different kinds of credit reports you can get. So you can link it to your bank account as well, and I link it to my student loans. So I see that super scary number each time I log in. It keeps me going.
You mentioned like having 2 credit cards. Like before that, like I heard that like it'll ding you on your credit score by having that. That's true or not?
Hard credit inquiries will ding you on your credit score. Now, it could be worth it if you are doing this kind of balance, where you have a travel credit card versus a credit card for like getting Amazon rewards points or something like that. But yeah, hard credit inquiries, if you apply to like 30 apartment buildings for some reason, Samantha, you can back me up, and they ask for your credit each time, it's going to be noticeable, I would say. And if you're applying for a grad loan or something, it will, they check it as well. So you can also look how many things you have on your credit card. Also, closing credit card accounts. I need to be more specific on this, but that does look sometimes bad in your credit report. You're just constantly closing, opening. Someone, yeah.
Under what situations would you recommend having 2 credit cards as opposed to just 1?
Like I said, the point system. If you're a consultant, and you're constantly traveling. If it's really good for like travel credit card points, maybe one's really good for that. If you have a certain department store credit card, if you're for some reason always at Macy's or something like that, people can do that as well. International, there's reasons why it works better abroad or something. A lot of times it's the rewards and the points. I have a Chase credit card, and it's got pretty decent Amazon points, like rewards. I can get Amazon gift cards for just spending money. You can also sometimes get cash back, but the rewards have a higher percentage of give back. So like instead of $50 cash, it's like $100 Amazon or something. Yes?
Some credit cards have APR and then annual fee,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes they have annual fee, but they don't have APR. Which one would you recommend for college students? The one that has annual fee or the one that has APR?
So did you raise your hand to answer the question? Or? Sorry, you look like yours. Gina, actually, if you want to help me out a little bit with this, it's something I'm not as familiar with. Gina's my supervisor, by the way. Say hello, Gina.
The annual versus the APR, it depends on what the APR is. Some cards would have an annual fee of $100, and then if the APR is 14.99, then you have to figure out, you know, if you're making all these purchases, can you pay the balance at the end of each month, the full balance. So I think you have to measure it and see which one is better for you, depending on how you spend, how you your expenses are, how you spend and shop. So you have to do your research in terms of what card would be best for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding, and again, you can ask at the end if it just pops up. I'm also available a little bit after class. Let's see. Oops. I was going to move into now insurance for a little bit. So health insurance, often you get health insurance when you get a full-time benefited job. If you're a temp or sometimes a consultant or a contractor or freelance, you won't have benefits usually. Then you have to go on the market, the private market, and buy private health care. I can't go into that because it's not my field, but I do have resources if you want to grab my card after, email me about it. Something to note when you get your first full 9-to-5 job, or if you do, is that if a job, let's say, is 50K, no benefits, and 45K benefits, you're looking at the two jobs, please take the benefits. It's completely worth it. Healthcare on the private market can be expensive depending on what state and what your situation is. Also things like dental, I have people in my life that say, I don't need dental insurance, my teeth are perfect. That's great, but when you, smash your teeth out on the Key Bridge while biking to work, as I did, you're gonna need that dental. So it's something that life happens, right? And something else with that, when you're going to a private healthcare provider, you need to see if they're in your network. And it can get kind of confusing because sometimes the names sound very similar because all healthcare insurances just mimic each other. So look at their website. I have friends that have health problems or they're just kind of a little bit hypochondriac. I just always want to be able to go to the doctor without worrying. They pay really high premiums, but they feel comfortable going to the doctor and just handing a 20 over at the end of a visit. Peace of mind. I have some friends with insanely high deductibles because they take that risk. They feel it's okay. Like I said, after my bike accident, I'm a little bit nervous, so I just pay very high premiums. But it's just where you're at. It's something that you look at your offers and your benefits. You need to see if it's worth it to you, what the levels are. I personally am not a risk taker, so I pay a little bit more for my health insurance to get a little bit more back. Jump into that.
Yeah, all right. Hi, everybody. I'm Samantha. I work in the Office of Neighborhood Life, and we do or support all students, graduate students, and undergraduates that live out in the neighborhood, as well as community members in the surrounding neighborhoods of the university. So it's pretty local. But I just want to start with my first question. Who is a senior and is graduating and is moving out into the wild world after this? Most people. Okay, well that's exciting. That's awesome. So you're probably in that nervous phase of starting to think, where am I going to live? What kind of jobs am I going to have? And that's really exciting. So I don't want to speak in generalizations. I know, okay, well, does anybody live off campus right now? A few friends. Okay, so you've heard me talk. I'm sorry. You sat through orientation. I don't want to speak too specific to DC because I'm guessing you all are going all over the world. And I also don't want to make super broad generalizations. So just to let you know, I'm not a housing expert, a national housing expert, but there's some things that I've learned in the job, and I really just want to summarize it to three things when you start to think about housing. The first one is really understand and solidify for yourself your preferences and your constraints. The second thing is going to be do your research, which you guys are Georgetown students and you're good at that. And the third thing is going to be really protect yourself as you're going about the search the whole way. Protect yourself and protect all of your resources, financial, your stuff, as you're going about it. And I think those are some of the things that I've learned, just even staying locally in the neighborhood where some people get tripped up. So when it comes to your preferences, all of this is really intuitive too. You guys all know this, and so you've thought about it and rationalize, okay, what am I going to do? What do I care about? So really, obviously your constraints are going to be whatever your salary or your income is, and then your constraints are also going to be where you work, transportation, how you're going to get there. Really think through some of those things, as well as even just something that in neighborhood life we emphasize a lot is what it means to live in a community. So whether you're moving to a city or out in the middle of the country, it's going to be important to you what kind of community you're moving into, and you're going to have the ability to choose the community that you move into, right? So if you are a big apartment person, then limit your scope of what you're searching for to big apartments. If you just want to live in a townhouse with some friends, if you want housemates, if you want to live alone, think through all those things and know yourself. When it comes to doing your research, a lot of people find that they struggle on really just the housing platforms. So I would say look for unconventional sources and look at all the housing platforms. But for example, one of the unconventional sources for here at Georgetown is our website, OCH Listings. I don't think that enough students take advantage of this, but it's a great resource where if you're moving into somewhere out in the neighborhood out in DC, there's people all over this neighborhood in big apartment buildings that are putting their listings up on this website, and stuff pops up all the time. There's also, I mean, when I say unconventional, like I found some really awesome unicorn housing on a random organization's, like their little, they have like a sublet housing list, and I found some great housing and it was legit. So like, depending on the organization, the coworkers, the workplace that you're going to, you can find some really great places to search for housing. Going into protecting yourself, for example, I just had a good friend that lost $2,000 because she put her money and just sent her money to wires to somebody on Craigslist. And like, I know you hear that again and again, like don't get scammed on Craigslist. And you can find great options on Craigslist, but just be super careful about as you go about it. The number one thing I would say is make sure that you see the place before signing any lease or sending any money anywhere. Send a friend. If you have a friend in that city or a family member, have them go put eyes on the place and have them shake the hands of the landlord or the owner, because you just don't want to be sending your money and there's just a lot out there that you can't trust. So make sure that you see the place and take that time and make that investment, or it might burn you down the way. Another important, I guess, protective element is really looking into whatever kind of place that you move into, making sure that it's safe. So thinking about fire safety. Are there fire safety supplies? Is this building up to code? In DC, we have a regulatory government body called the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, and they have inspectors that go around, and in order to rent to anyone in DC, you have to have a basic business license. So anyone that's living out in the city, there should be an active basic business license where an inspector is going in and checking to ensure that that place has basic life and safety requirements. And it's something that's a continual basis, it's a license that is renewed. So in whatever city you're going for, like that's, I guess, part of your research, is just check and make sure, like, what requirements by law are here for this building or this townhome for renting. Pretty much any city or town that you go to will have some sort of resource that's there for tenant trouble. Tenant-landlord disputes happen across this country, and we have a ton in DC. It's actually a very tenant-friendly city. So if you're staying in here in DC, you can feel free to come talk to me after, or just later on in your time as an alumni, talk to our office, because we have pretty good connections with the various city agencies. Even in Georgetown, I mean, there's great connections for, you know, law students in court is another one where they will come and give you free legal information and help you resolve any sort of landlord dispute, help you understand really what is required, what rights you have as a tenant. So make sure you're thinking through all of those things as you are going through and searching for housing. Does anyone have any questions? Thoughts?
I have a couple more notes.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So look at this booklet closer to the end, and I'm just gonna like list off some of the things that I had thrown in there from my experience with housing. So Craigslist was brought up, and I had a couple of friends who had lots of success finding group housing on Craigslist, and it turned out great for them. So it is an option, but again, use your wits. A lot of the times, you'll see one that says like, for an easy $100 application, you too can be part of our loving home. And I'm like, I don't think so. Also, I noticed, check your cell signal and see if there's Wi-Fi connectivity in the apartment building. I've had to install Wi-Fi into an apartment building in the room, and that cost me like $100 extra, which is kind of an annoying expense when the other rooms had Wi-Fi, but that particular one did not yet have installed Wi-Fi. So I had to like to have the guy from Comcast come in and everything. Also, cell signal, again, a big deal if you're living in a basement and you can't get calls. A, that's bad for emergencies, and B, you're going to get lonely very quickly. go during different times of the day if you really have your heart set on an apartment building. You might be next to a daycare that has screaming children at noon. Or you might be next to a fire station and not realize, oh, I'm next to the fire station. It's just like a block away. And there's just constantly fire trucks going by. Again, another thing I've experienced, and it's just better off to check your neighborhood first. A little thing, if your apartment is loving cats, and then cats are free, dogs are not free, we love our cats, they might have mice. Just keep that in mind. I've run into that problem a few times. Call the apartment complex. Just sending an email is not really, it's kind of throwing you into the void sometimes, especially older apartment complexes where the apartment manager maybe is a little older and doesn't want to check the email, he just kind of has it because he has to. Calling is really good. Also asking, I know you don't have rooms now, but in a month or two, because sometimes people have their leases coming up at the end, and they know someone will be moving out in a little bit. So you can just hold on, or like stay with your parents a little longer, or like kind of do your month to month a little longer. You could get a great room or apartment just by asking what's coming up soon. I found my current place through the Realtor.com app. It's super great because it's personal, private listings as well as big apartment buildings. If your building has amenities, that's actually something to note. So if you're a gym person and you can either choose to pay $40, $50 a month for a gym, or you can like pay a little bit extra and have that building with a nice gym just downstairs, that might be something important to you. A built-in pool if you're a store. A package service if you have a lot of packages. But, you know, if you're in a building that just leaves them in front of your doorstep, you're going to be anxious a lot, someone's going to steal your package. So if it has a package service, it's kind of good to note for that peace of mind. There's lots of Facebook housing. I think you mentioned Facebook groups maybe. Okay, I use Facebook groups to find housing. They have ones for like LGBTQA housing, government workers, artists, animal friendly. You can find the niche ones on Facebook. It's actually pretty easy. And sometimes they have summer internship housing. So if you're really in between things and just need a couple months, they do have people that are like, I'm, going on study abroad, wants an apartment for 3 months. And the last thing I have to say about housing is if you see a room apartment or a house or a room in a house, jump on calling that immediately. Don't send a text, don't send an email. If it's going to go into the void, please call them. They're getting many calls. Once I left a viewing and then got a text, oh, we just gave the apartment to the person right before you. I'm like, oh, awesome. Like, it's DC, any big city will have this issue where it's just going crazy fast. I haven't lived in New York, but I had a friend tell me one time, he had a friend that was like, I always carry my checks with me so I can immediately put down a deposit right there in person. So that was something that kind of scared me. And I hope I don't have to live in New York City on that kind of level. But it's just important to not, I think people just text them. And I'm like, you can't just text a landlord. They may not even look at their phones, but they will answer it if you call it. After housing. Oh, any questions on housing? Yeah, I think so.
My question is, for young professionals, what is ideal budgets for how much of your income you should spend on apartments? I don't know, I've heard that you shouldn't spend more than a third. I'm just curious what average ranges or ranges you would recommend.
So in bigger cities, it can be harder to stick to the 1/3. I have some friends paying as much as half, but if you have to add in, they're maybe spending less on commute. If they only have to walk to work, or they just take a bus versus metro and bus and parking their car because they travel in from really far out. It's really recommended you don't go over half, because at that point it's going to get overwhelming. If you're hit by an unexpected expense, you may not be able to pay rent, which is a terrifying prospect. I think the third is a good idea, but sometimes it's not possible to hold to that. Do you think that?
Yeah, I would have said the same. More generally, people spend about a third of their budget, but it's hard. Easy. It's hard to stick to that. New York, San Francisco.
Yeah, and the commuting is something that's really important, because I know some people say, oh, I have a car, so I'll drive in, park at the end of the metro line, metro in, and then bus to work. You're going to get extremely tired very fast. Maybe it's worth it, maybe it's your dream job, and maybe you're looking at your dream apartment. But I've done the hour-and-a-half long commute one way before, and it eats up so much of your day. You can only read so many Kindle books before you just get really tired of sitting in the metro that long. And also it adds up. Metro during peak hours isn't cheap. One time I was paying $12 an hour, then $12 a day to get to a job. That wasn't even really worth it with the hourly wage I was getting paid at that point. So it's really important to consider that when you're picking where to live. Also, look at the public transportation of the city you're going to. Sometimes if you're on a bus line and you think that'll be enough, what if it's just a non-reliable bus line? If you're a bike person, maybe the safety of if your bike will get stolen if it's parked outside. I use Capital Bike Share, and that's super great because there's lots in my area, but if you live near only one rack and one day all the bikes are gone, you just kind of have to weigh your options. But your commute will become a big part of your life, and it's important to measure that in with housing. So don't sacrifice a little bit of cost for a lot of commute time, but it's just not worth it to you. Maybe that. Okay. A lot of the things I have here are kind of business specific, so I'll hold off on that. Are there any general questions? Yes.
I wanted to ask if the 1 month free rent thing is like a scam or
Usually that's during off-peak months. Summer is peak moving season. It's also typically if you're thinking about moving, I recommend moving in the winter, fall months. It's not if it's a legitimate apartment building, it's not a scam. I've done that where we moved in December and they said you'll get 2 free months off if you sign a 2-year lease. And we were fine with the area, it was nice, we were planning on staying. So we did sign that lease. Again, make sure it's legitimate. If it's like a real apartment building or like something like that, you can be sure. But again, it's usually during off-peak months to get people to sign faster than consider moving in summer. Any other questions? Okay, so I'll be up here for a little bit after you have questions you want to ask me in general about anything else that's more specific. I can help a little bit with job hunting in the field of education as well as translation. So just hit me up. And thank you so much for coming here.